North Korea's Kim says the new hypersonic missile can deter Pacific rivals. Take a look at the latest headlines with me. North Korea carries out the first missile launch test since Trump's elections. Kim Jong-un's last missile test came on Election Day, and we're hearing that Kim Jong-un, he is not planning to play nice with Trump. Before we had seen a bit of a bromance with the two, as they said they had gotten along. Trump was the first U.S. president to walk on North Korean soil with Kim Jong-un, and we're hearing, well, that is not going to be the case with this second term. Take a look at this. North Korea said on Tuesday, today, that its latest weapon test was a new hypersonic intermediate-range ballistic missile, in other words, an IRBM, designed to strike remote targets in the Pacific. North Korea says it test-fired a hypersonic missile. And take a look at this. Now, this was back in late November. We had seen the new missile test shows that North Korea is now capable of hitting all of the U.S. mainland. And these were the warnings that had come out from the Pentagon confirming this, saying, listen, the tests that are taking place right now, North Korea has successfully launched these ICBM and IRBM tests. They have the nuclear warheads. Now they have the missiles capable of launching them. And these tests have proven that they have made giant leaps forward in their capabilities. And if they wanted, now they could hit anywhere in the United States. They could hit California, Texas, Florida, Washington, D.C., New York. They have the capabilities now to do this. Now, in the past, we've heard him called Rocket Man. A lot of people kind of making jokes about his capabilities as they kind of lack them. A lot of their testing was a failure. But now we're hearing that they do have these capabilities and they should be taken seriously. And we're seeing new test launches taking place in just the last 24 hours. And take a look at this now. We're seeing this also came out from the Pentagon last month after we saw that successful testing. And they made this warning and they said this, the Pentagon, a North Korean nuclear attack would result in the end of Kim's regime. So a major warning coming out from the United States saying, listen, if you do decide that you are going to step things up and you're going to take these IRBMs or these ICBMs and strap a nuclear warhead to them and you try to attack, that is going to be the end of your regime. The United States, we will put an end to North Korea. These threats coming out, and we're seeing more testing taking place, and we're going to be seeing how Donald Trump addresses all of this. But I'm going to get you caught up on the latest that's been coming out in the last 24 hours, and let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? If North Korea gets the courage to go ahead and launch a nuclear warhead or an IRBM or an ICBM against the United States or allies of the U.S. in the Pacific, will this be the end of North Korea? Let me know your thoughts, yes or no, in the comments. And also, while you're dropping those comments, don't forget to do me a quick favor. If you appreciate the updates, keeping you up to speed on everything, and I mean, there is a lot going on right now, do me a favor before we dive in. Take a quick second, hit that like button for me. Just that little push of the like button really helps out the channel a ton, spreads this out further across the YouTube platform so more people can get the latest updates. Also, consider subscribing to stay up to date. It's totally free. Why not? I'll keep you up to speed on everything going on, like I said. And also, Don, welcome to the Ram Fam. I appreciate that a ton. Hitting the join button, becoming a member of the community, those monthly contributions, I appreciate it a ton. Not necessary, but greatly appreciated. And as a result, not only will all of the articles that I'm referencing be linked in the description, I cite everything like a book report so that way you can rest assured that it is the latest, see the sources, see the dates, and all the information. But in addition to that, it's also going to pop up in your YouTube feed when you hit the join button and become a member as well. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And also, as I've mentioned, additional resources are also linked in the description as well. A lot of people with all the talk right now of radiation exposure, nuclear attacks, all these things that we're hearing potentially could be coming here. Let us pray that it doesn't, but also let us prepare as if it were. There are links down below to those iodide potassium tablets as well. A lot of people asking about those, protecting your thyroid and your body from radiation. Those are linked in the description. Just small little packs that you can get just to be ready. Some people like to buy them in bulk. I recommend just small packs because you don't want to buy a ton of pills and then they expire on you very quickly. So there's just like $15 little packs for adults in the description, and then for all ages. So if you want to get some for your kids as well, they're in the description. $20 pack, just a small pack to have on hand ready just in case anything were to happen. I always say here on the channel, don't be scared, be prepared. Let us pray that nothing happens. Let us hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So that, along with other resources linked down below. Also, a lot of people concerned about our power grids. EMP attacks, all of those things, various resources linked down below, and little guides that are free as well. So anyways, check those out, hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date, and let's go ahead and take a look at the latest coming out in the last 24 hours so you can see what's going on with the concerns of the emboldened Kim Jong-un of North Korea, and we're going to be seeing how Donald Trump addresses all of this. Almi, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for all that you do, Steve. You are very welcome. And thank you for that as well. I appreciate that $2 super chat a ton. But let's go ahead and take a look at some video footage so that way you can see a little bit about what's going on. And as you know as well, there is a lot happening in South Korea. South Korea has got their own issues, and they are in conflict with North Korea, the U.S. right in the middle of it. And we're actually seeing Anthony Blinken responding to this as well. So like I said, all of this just coming out in roughly the last 24 hours. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video footage.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has arrived in Seoul, meeting with South Korean government officials to discuss how they can, quote, strengthen key efforts to promote a free, open, and prosperous Indo-Pacific, the State Department says. It comes as hundreds of South Koreans braved snow and freezing temperatures over the weekend, calling for the arrest of impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. For more, let's bring in NBC's Matt Bodner. Good morning, Matt.
Francis, good morning. Blinken's visit to South Korea comes after weeks of political turmoil in this key American ally. South Korean President Yoon has been impeached following his surprise declaration of martial law last month, and there's currently a warrant out for his arrest. South Korean law enforcement once again attempted to detain President Yoon over the weekend, but their efforts were foiled by the Presidential Security Service, who formed a human chain to prevent investigators from getting access to Yoon. The warrant for his arrest expires in just a few hours at midnight tonight in South Korea, but investigators say that they will extend the warrant and continue their efforts to arrest him. Meanwhile, demonstrators continue to come out in support of his arrest. Washington has expressed, quote, serious concern over political events in South Korea over the past month, and Blinken in Seoul said that the response so far has been one that is, quote, peaceful and fully consistent and in accordance with the Constitution and rule of law. Meanwhile, North Korea has conducted another missile test coinciding with Blinken's visit to South Korea. According to the South Korean military, the missile was an intermediate-range ballistic missile, and it flew about 700 miles out to sea. Blinken, commenting on the launch, said that it underscored the importance of collaboration between the U.S., South Korea, and Japan in the region. Blinken also noted that Pyongyang's relationship with Moscow has been growing. Francis?
Matt, thank you.
Thanks for watching.
There you have it, you guys. So as they mentioned, an intermediate range ballistic missile, or a IRBM, being launched by North Korea. Anthony Blinken saying this is really serious. We need to make sure we keep an eye on them, and we need to make sure that we protect our allies in South Korea as well. And as I mentioned, threats coming out as a result of what is going on. And like I said, the United States coming out, and take a look at this. Like I mentioned before, this coming out back in November, and now it's just intensifying. But Pentagon says that North Korea nuclear attack, this would result in the end of Kim's regime, that they will just outright take out North Korea if they become emboldened to the point where they were to do something. And take a look. This is because, as I mentioned, we saw that right before the elections, the new missile tests show that North Korea is now capable of hitting all of the U.S. mainland. They now have the ability to hit anywhere. So they're saying they need to take some of these threats and things that Kim Jong-un is doing a little bit more serious than we have in the past. Before, as I mentioned, people call him Rocket Man, kind of joke about their inability to launch intermediate range ballistic missiles or international ICBMs or IRBMs. They're saying, well, now they do have those capabilities, and with their nuclear warheads, this could be a serious threat. So it's time to start holding him a little bit more accountable for the actions that he is taking. But let's take a look at this so you can see what has unfolded in the last 24 hours. As they're saying, take a look here. North Korea carries out its first missile launch test since Trump's elections. And a lot of people speculated that before Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, they had a good relationship. They're saying do not expect that same relationship to be unfolding now, because they are saying that now Kim Jong-un has really buddied up to Russia and to some of the other adversaries of the United States, and now they feel more emboldened, and they feel like they have made advancements in their nuclear capabilities. And it's not going to be the same relationship we saw before. There are warnings coming out to the U.S. regarding that relationship. But let's go ahead and take a look at this article so that way you can see it. North Korea's Kim says new hypersonic missile can detour Pacific rivals. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said that a new hypersonic intermediate-range ballistic missile, or an IRBM, his country tested on Monday yesterday, would help deter its enemies in the region. A veiled reference to the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. So these are the ones that are receiving the warnings: the United States, Japan, and South Korea. State-run media reported on Tuesday today. The hypersonic missile system will reliably contain any rivals in the Pacific region that can affect the security of our state. The North Korean official, Korean Central News Agency, quoted Kim as saying, Pyongyang claimed the new hypersonic weapon had flown at 12 times the speed of sound for 1,500 kilometers or 932 miles, hitting an altitude of nearly 100 kilometers before descending to a second peak of 42.5 kilometers and hitting a simulated target in the open sea off the country's east coast. A second peak could mean that the missile is able to change course and maintain altitude rather than descending on a typical ballistic trajectory. Now, although the IRBMs typically can travel a maximum distance of between 3,000 to 5,500 kilometers, Kim appeared to stress that the missile's evasive capabilities, not its range, were the key features of this weapon system. The performance of our latest intermediate-range hypersonic missile system cannot be ignored worldwide. Kim, who oversaw the test via a monitoring system, said, the system can deal a serious military strike to a rival while effectively breaking any dense defensive barriers. Few countries in the world might possess such a weapon, he added. New carbon fiber composite materials were used in the missile's engine, with Kim calling the new weapon a linchpin of strategic deterrence. South Korea's military, however, said the claims were likely exaggerated. The Yonhap News Agency reported, with officials noting that the figure clashed with the 1,100-kilometer distance reported by both Seoul and Tokyo. Photos accompanying the report showed the missile's maneuverable warhead, known as a hypersonic glide vehicle or boost glide vehicle, which appeared to be the same model or a variation of one it tested last April. HGVs are launched abroad missiles before separating and approaching a target. Are launched aboard missiles before separating and approaching a target. Contrary to its name, speed is not the key feature. Rather, it is the weapon's maneuverability. It can change trajectory during flight, making it difficult to intercept. According to the defense minister in Tokyo, an IRBM has a range of up to 5,000 kilometers, which would place all of Japan and the U.S. territory of Guam within range, if fired from parts of North Korea. Guam is home to the sprawling U.S. military base that hosts a rotational presence of bombers that would likely be used in any conflict on the Korean peninsula. However, the depressed trajectory of Monday's test, which makes the missile harder to detect, may mean it poses a more serious threat to U.S. military bases in Japan, where reinforcements for any conflict on the Korean peninsula would likely flow from. Monday's launch was the North's inaugural missile test of 2025 and the first since Donald Trump's November 5th election. It also came as U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken made what was widely seen as his final visit to Seoul and the region before Trump takes office on January 20th. Blinken condemned the launch, telling the news conference hours afterward that it had highlighted the importance of trilateral security cooperations between the United States, Japan, and South Korea. Today's launch is just a reminder to all of us of how important our collaborative work is, he said. Kim has embarked on a military modernization campaign in recent years, building up his increasingly advanced nuclear, missile, and other weapons programs. In Tuesday's report, Kim said the push will be further accelerated this year. Now, while Kim said the latest test was for self-defense and not an offensive plan and action, he also said it clearly showed the rivals what we are doing and what we are fully ready to use, even any means to defend our legitimate interests. So there you have it, you guys. Now, this coming out from the Japanese Times, as they are saying that this has unfolded here. North Korea's Kim says the hypersonic missile can deter Pacific rivals. That is the United States, Japan, and South Korea. And they're saying this is the first one that has been launched since Donald Trump has entered into office. North Korea carries out its first missile launch test since Trump's election. North Korea test-fired a ballistic missile for the first time since President-elect Trump secured re-election on Monday yesterday. North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un's regime last launched a missile test on November 5th as Americans were heading to the polls. Monday's test is another sign that Kim apparently has no plans to develop a closer relationship with Donald Trump than he had with President Biden. The test comes more than a week after North Korea's ruling party held its annual meeting in Pyongyang. State media outlet KCNA said party leaders condemned ongoing partnerships between the U.S., Japan, and South Korea as a nuclear military bloc. Now, this reality clearly shows to which direction we should advance and what we should do, and how the Workers' Party of Korea said in a statement. So they are saying that the reality of the situation is that they are becoming adversaries stronger against the United States. Now, the meeting came as North Korea faces mounting tensions with Western governments after sending troops to assist in Russia's invasion of Ukraine this fall. Kim's regime also condemned South Korea as an anti-communist outpost following this week's meeting, a reference to President Yoon Suk-yeol's attempt to impose martial law in December. Now, North Korea had remained silent for roughly a week after Yoon's attempt, which was foiled by the nation's legislature. Kim Jong-un's regime finally commented on the issue through its state-run news outlet on December 11th. The shocking incident of the puppet Yoon Suk-yeol regime, which was faced with a serious governance crisis and an impeachment crisis, suddenly declared a martial law decree and unhesitantly wielded the guns and knives of its fascist dictatorship, KCNA said in a report. The international community is sternly watching, with assessments that the martial law incident exposed vulnerabilities in South Korean society and that Yoon Suk-yeol's political life could face an early end, KCNA added. South Korea's legislator impeached Yoon soon after his power grab, and a national court is deliberating over whether to uphold his removal. So there you have it. A lot of conflict taking place, as you saw in the video footage and from the articles, in South Korea. And we've got North Korea doing these tests. And also, as you can see, North Korea says it test-fired that hypersonic missile. They said it was 12 times the speed of sound, or Mach 12. Now, take a look. In addition to that, as we mentioned that there were some successful test launches back in November, they are now warning as well, the United States, saying that this has the ability to hit anywhere on the mainland of the U.S. No longer is it just concerns about Hawaii or California or Alaska. Now they're saying that if they wanted, they could reach anywhere on the U.S. mainland. Take a look. Now, this coming out back on November 30th with an update and a reminder as to what we're looking at. And the Pentagon also responded to this as well, saying we need to take them more serious because they have some serious advancements in their capabilities. North Korea claims to have successfully tested a new type of intercontinental ballistic missile, topped with a super large heavy warhead, which is capable of striking the U.S. mainland. The country's state media made an announcement on Wednesday, hours after leader Kim Jong-un ordered the 3 a.m. launch of the Hwasong-15 missile, which reached the highest altitude ever recorded by a North Korean missile. State news agency KCNA called its so-called new missile the most powerful ICBM and said it meets the goal of the completion of the rocket weaponry system development. After the launch, Kim said North Korea had finally realized the great historic cause of completing the state nuclear force, according to the KCNA. U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis said earlier that the missile launch demonstrated North Korea had the ability to hit everywhere in the world. So this is the United States vocalizing this, not North Korea. The United States saying that these tests show that North Korea has the capability of hitting anywhere in the world, and again, anywhere on the U.S. mainland. And here's a look at the test that was performed, North Korea's latest missile test. And you can see it, here it is, launching from North Korea, going across the sea into Japan, 210 kilometers west in Japan's exclusive economic zone. Height 4,000 feet, time in the air 53 minutes. Now, the launch was the first since September and came despite repeated warnings from President Donald Trump, who told reporters at the White House after the launch that the U.S. will, quote, handle the situation. We will take care of it, the president said. So Donald Trump saying that he is going to be taking care of Kim Jong-un and de-escalating this situation. But a lot of people saying that the situation he is walking into now is very different than when he was in office in 2016, that during the last 4 years with the current Biden administration, that our adversaries have become much more emboldened. And he even said today, if you missed the coverage live, check it out after this. I shared with you the video footage coming out today, January the 7th, 2025, where he said that Russia would never have attacked Ukraine if he was president, that Iran and all these various proxy groups from Iran would not have attacked Israel. We wouldn't have had the October 7th attacks if he was president, that during this time of the last 4 years, our adversaries have been emboldened because of the weak leadership of the United States. And he said other nations are laughing at us, but they're not going to be laughing anymore. He said they think we're stupid. And he said, we are going to take care of that. And if you agree with him and you think that it is a good idea, go ahead and hit that like button and put a 47 for Donald Trump if you agree with him and you are glad to hear that he is taking this stance and going to be making a change, he said, to what is going on. Now, the Hwasong 15 soared 4,475 kilometers in the sky, spending 53 minutes in the air before splashing down in the waters off the coast of Japan, North Korea said. The figures tailed with estimates released by Japan and South Korea as well. And it says Mathis, who was with Trump in the Roosevelt Room of the White House, outlined how much tougher that situation has become. The test missile, he said, went higher, frankly, than any previous shot that they have taken, and demonstrates that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un now has the ability to hit everywhere in the world, basically. The bottom line is this. It's a continued effort to build a threat, a ballistic missile threat that endangers world peace, regional peace, and certainly the United States, he concluded. So again, this is a major warning to the United States. The United States hitting back, though. I'm going to be sharing with you what it was the Pentagon had to say. Is they said that if they launch this, if they do this, if they become emboldened enough to attack, we will put an end to North Korea. Kim Jong-un will be put to an end. David Wright of the Union of Concerned Scientists said that if the missile hasn't been lofted into the sky and had flown on a standard trajectory, hadn't been lofted into the sky and had flown on a standard trajectory, it would have been capable of traveling 13,000 kilometers or 8,100 miles. Such a missile would have more than enough range to reach Washington, D.C., and in fact, any part of the continental United States, Wright said in a statement, though he noted that range probably wouldn't be possible if the missile were fitted with a heavy nuclear warhead. The missile was launched from the west part of North Korea and is likely to have landed in Japan's exclusive economic zone, according to Masaki Hikadiga, public relations officer at Japan's Ministry of Defense. The flight time would suggest that this was a major ICBM test, possibly in operational settings, and should disabuse U.S. officials from thinking military displays, sanctions, or threats are deterring North Korean tests. So they're saying North Korea is showing aggression and emboldenment at this time, according to Adam Mount, a senior fellow at the Federation of American Scientists. Today's test proves that Pyongyang still feels able to test at will, he said to CNN. Adding it also shows the Trump administration has to get serious about deterring an atmospheric nuclear test. North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho had hinted in September that Pyongyang could carry out an atmospheric nuclear test over the Pacific Ocean, possibly by strapping a warhead atop a missile or dropping it from an airplane. Condemnations. Secretary of the State Rex Tillerson strongly condemned the launch and called for redoubled international pressure on Pyongyang, saying that the U.S. remains committed to finding a peaceful path to denuclearization, but he added a lightly veiled warning about limited U.S. patience. Diplomatic options remain viable and open for now, he said. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Republican, who sits on the Senate Armed Service Committee, told CNN's Wolf Blitzer that if we have to go to war to stop this, we will. If there's a war with North Korea, it will be because North Korea brought it on itself, and we're heading to a war if things don't change. On Wednesday, North Korean officials reiterated comments made to CNN in October that there would be no diplomacy until the country has proven its nuclear capabilities. The official added that the two steps needed to achieve this goal were the testing of a long-range ICBM capable of reaching the United States, followed by an above-ground nuclear detonation. Before we can engage in diplomacy with the Trump administration, we want to send a clear message that the DPRK has a reliable defense and offensive capability to counter any aggression from the United States, the official said, referring to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Prior to today's launch, lawmakers on both sides of the aisles, they have warned of devastating consequences if the U.S. takes military action against North Korea. Pyongyang can batter Seoul with a barrage of conventional weapons, putting millions of South Koreans and more than 28,000 U.S. troops stationed within their range. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, speaking from Tokyo, issued a warning of his own. The latest missile launch, he said, significantly undermines the strong determination of the international community's peaceful resolution of the issue. International diplomacy swiftly kicked into high gear, with U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley requesting an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council with her counterparts from South Korea and Japan. That meeting is set to take place Wednesday afternoon. So this was from before. Again, they were saying that this was a major concern. The United States coming out and saying that the latest test that was done back in November, that this showed that North Korea had the capabilities of hitting anywhere in the U.S., and then we just saw in the last 24 hours another test being done. And take a look at this. Now, back when this unfolded, this was the response by the Pentagon issuing a warning to North Korea, letting them know that if you feel emboldened to try to attack, that will be the end of your regime. Man, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And also, if you haven't done so yet and you appreciate the updates, don't forget to take a quick second, hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date, as we're hearing that there are new testings taking place in the last 24 hours by North Korea, which new threats are being issued and warnings. Now take a look at this. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said during a meeting with his Seoul Korean counterpart Thursday that any North Korean nuclear attack against the United States or others would result in the end of Kim's regime. The statement came hours after Pyongyang tested the new intercontinental ballistic missile, again raising tensions in the region. Any nuclear attack against the United States or its allies and partners, including the use of non-strategic nuclear weapons, is unacceptable and will result in the end of Kim's regime, Austin said during a meeting with Lee Jong-sup at the Pentagon on Thursday, according to joint commune release by the Defense Department. Now, the administration included similar language in its national defense strategy with the Pentagon released last week. Both Austin and Leo told reporters after the meeting that they were concerned about Pyongyang's recent missile launches. Austin said the tests are destabilizing to the region and called on Pyongyang to cease that type of activity and to begin to engage in serious dialogue. However, he noted that the Pentagon does not currently have any plans to change its posture in the region. The meeting comes as Pyongyang continues to provoke outrage from its Pacific neighbors with a multi-day barrage of missile launches, a new round of tests, which occur Thursday morning local time, appeared to include a failed intercontinental ballistic missile. The government of Japan initially warned that the missile would fly over Japan, but Tokyo's defense ministry later said that had not occurred. The missile traveled 466 miles before falling into the Sea of Japan, far shorter than a March launch of that same missile that traveled 1,000 miles. And we're hearing that it was that launch that caused the United States to be concerned about potentially hitting anywhere in the U.S. And as I mentioned, in just the last 24 hours of today, January the 7th, 2025, we're hearing that another one has taken place, this time in IRBM, which they're saying is hypersonic, Mach 12, 12 times the speed of sound, and also has the capabilities of maneuvering and changing paths in the air and having the ability to hit again anywhere in the Pacific, including U.S. assets. So there you have it, you guys. So a lot of concerns being raised at this time with what is unfolding right now in the Pacific with North Korea, South Korea, Japan, the United States. In addition to that, as I mentioned, there is still concerns about what's going to be unfolding with Russia and Ukraine. Today we heard from Donald Trump discussing this, saying he's going to be addressing this very soon. We actually saw one reporter ask him, hey, is this going to be done in the next 6 months? And he said, no, we're going to have this done sooner. He said 6 months. There's a lot of unnecessary war that is being done that can come to an end right now. He said, we're going to address this right away. And we're going to be seeing how Donald Trump addresses this situation with North Korea as well. A lot of people saying that he did very well with Kim Jong-un during his first term in office. Now with his second term, we're going to be seeing, because they said everything has changed. The entire atmosphere, the dynamic, the environment, it has completely changed. And we're going to be seeing how Donald Trump maneuvers with all of the changes that have unfolded as we're seeing our adversaries, Iran, North Korea, China, Russia, all emboldened, working together. And Donald Trump coming in and saying it is time for a major change and for other nations to respect us, to no longer laugh at us and think that we're stupid, to take advantage of us, to think that we have weak leadership, which is emboldening them to take steps to whatever they like, war. He is saying it's time for a change. Now, we're going to be seeing what unfolds here, but as you guys can see, the last 24 hours, North Korea's Kim Jong-un launching this hypersonic missile test, and they're saying that this will be deterring their rivals in the Pacific because now the world is seeing the capabilities of North Korea. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I see Diva's mom saying thumbs up and like and subscribe. It is free. Thank you for that. I appreciate the support. Yes, if you haven't done so yet, hit the like button, subscribe. I will keep you up to speed on everything, as I mentioned. Also, these articles linked down in the description below. I cite all of them just like a book report so you can see them for yourself. Know that it is the latest. And also additional resources. If you want those iodide potassium tablets, $15, an Amazon link down below. You can go ahead and click them and get a small pack ready. Or if you've got kids, all ages, there's a pack there for $20. Just get some, have some available. Maybe get some for other members of your family or friends as well. Just have something ready just in case. Because like I say here on the channel, do not be scared, be prepared. There's a lot going on in the world. We don't want to pretend like it's not happening, stick our heads in the sand and say like, oh, this isn't taking place. It is. All of this is in the news. I'm just keeping you up to speed on it. But knowledge is power, but I believe that the application of knowledge is the true power. Us knowing what's going on and then making preparations to be ready for whatever should unfold. That is why we say don't be scared, be prepared. Take preparations, make sure you're ready. The proverb says that the simple see calamity along their path and they just fall right into it. But the wise see what's coming and they change their path to make sure that they can keep them and their families safe. So, like I said, regardless, I will continue to keep you up to date here on the channel of all the latest news so that way you know what's going on. But we are hearing that things are increasing with tensions with North Korea and our adversaries. But Donald Trump is going to be coming into office on January 20th, and we're going to be seeing what unfolds, and I'll let you know. Also, in addition to that, there is still updates coming in about the attacks that took place on January 1st, on New Year's Day, in New Orleans, in Las Vegas. We saw arrests in Houston. We saw the seizure of the largest amount of homemade detonation devices in Virginia. Over 150 pipe bombs were captured, and we're hearing that there is a lot of investigation taking place right now into that, along with the drones. A lot of people concerned about orbs and fogs, and we've got a transition of power coming on the 20th as well. So a lot going on, like I said, and I will keep you up to speed on everything. Just in the last 24 hours, yesterday, this happened. Same time we saw the Canadian Prime Minister resign, and we saw Kamala Harris actually have to certify the election for Donald Trump. A lot going on. I'll keep you guys up to speed here on the channel. And again, if you appreciate that, take a second, hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date, and I'll catch you in the next one. That is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.